Hi, this is Pastor Steve of North Hollywood First United Methodist Church. A couple of weeks ago, I was on Facebook, on social media, and I saw a post from one of my relatives. And she was saying that, things in her life weren't going well, and that she knew the reason why was that she wasn't right with the Lord, and started making a list of all the things she was going to do so that her life would turn around. And I wanted to respond to her, and I didn't because it's actually not a very healthy environment to do, but we tend to think that, God somehow is making bad things happen to us to get our attention. And I don't actually agree with that point of view. I think that sometimes we have these assumptions about how God acts, and yet somehow it doesn't compare to what we actually see in Scripture. We build it based upon things that we've seen, we've heard people say, or we assume that's how we work, so that's how God must work. And the reality is that we're all trying to figure out how God works. But Scripture is clear that God has purposes that God works towards. And either we're seeking those out or we're doing something different. This week we're going to be reading a story out of Genesis chapter 22. It's not a fun story. It's a story about Abraham thinking that God has asked him to take his only son Isaac to be sacrificed. And in that space, Abraham leans on an understanding that God will provide. And in the end, we're relieved to find out that God does provide. And that Abraham is not expected to sacrifice his son. Do we have things that we think that God asks us to do that God isn't asking us to do? Are we sometimes mistaken when we think we hear God's voice, but we really don't? I hope you'll join in with us on Sunday morning to hear this story and to consider the ways that we need to reconsider the voice of God, what God expects of us in these times, so that we might be God's people and that we might together work for God's purposes and for a better world. Go in peace. I'll see you Sunday.